Ruben Gonzalez, born on 26th of July 1962, is a four-time Olympian who competed in the men's luge from 1984 to 2010. Competing in 4 Winter Olympics, he holds the record for being the first athlete to participate in 4 different Winter Olympics in 4 different decades. Gonzalez was born in Argentina, but his family immigrated to the United States in 1968. In February 1984, at the age of 22, Gonzalez was reminded of his childhood dream he had to go to the Olympics. He watched the footage of the Sarajevo Winter Olympics and saw the American Scott Hamilton take the gold medal in the men's figure skating. Scott Hamilton was a 49 kgs in weight and was 5 foot 2.5 inches approximately in height at the peak of his career. Ruben said to himself, "He is so tiny, and if he can go to the Olympics, so can I." He then went to the college library and looked up at various summer sports, and in 5 minutes he realized that he didn't have any physical fitness to be a super athlete, since right from school he was always the last kid to be picked up for the PE class. Now, being named as Bulldog because he was tenacious as a kid, he leveraged his tenacity to choose a sport which resulted in many broken bones, where there would be many quitters while he continued to stay on. So Ruben then turned to winter sports and narrowed them down to 3 that he could get into. First was ski jump, then bobsled and luge. Now he thought that ski jump would be suicidal, while bobsledding required a team of 3 other people, thus leaving only the sport of luge, in which he could compete individually. Ruben Gonzalez then immediately wrote to the sports magazine asking how a person could go about learning how to luge, and thus found out about a training center in Lake Placid, New York. Gonzalez immediately contacted the center and talked to a man who, learning that he was 21, didn't seem to be too interested in talking to him, as most luge Olympians begin training at the age of 10 or even earlier. But while conversing, Gonzalez happened to tell him that he was from Argentina, and that somehow changed the entire tone of the conversation on the other side of the phone. Gonzalez learned that the luge sport was on the verge of being eliminated from Olympic competition because there weren't enough countries participating. And if Gonzalez would participate on behalf of Argentina, he could train with the Americans. The man on the other end of the phone said, "Okay, before you come to Lake Placid, you should know that this sport is brutal and 9 out of 10 people quit." Gonzalez then immediately replied, "That's perfect. It works right into my plan." Gonzalez then traveled to Lake Placid to fulfill his Olympic dream, but soon learned that he would have to compress 10 years of training into 2 years. At first glance, the sport of luge looks simple. Simply lie back on a fiberglass sled and let gravity carry you. However, on a 3/4 mile track with about 16 curves going downhill at a speed of 90 miles an hour, reality is quite different, and timely steering of the sled and physical strengths are imperative. Due to breakneck speeds, the sport is infamous for producing broken bones and myriad injuries. During training, Gonzalez broke his foot twice, along with a knee, elbow, hand and a thumb, but he kept coming back to train. He kept telling himself that broken bones were just temporary inconveniences, and one has to put on his mental armor and stay in the game long enough to reach your dream. Despite crashing out 4 out of 5 times in the first year in the sport, Gonzalez persevered, and his dream came true in 1988 when he finished 33rd. 4 years later, at Albertville, he was 31, and after a gap of about 10 years, he competed at Salt Lake City. Now, this is a true story about how an ordinary person accomplished extraordinary things by simply believing that anyone can make his dream become a reality. From a bench warmer in the college soccer team in 1984, the common logic would have dictated that he was too old to learn a new sport. 4 years later, against all odds and a few broken bones, he competed at the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics in the men's single luge. Ruben is a testament to the power of human spirit. His life confirms an age-old truth that determination, faith, and belief in God-given abilities are still the keys to personal success. His story highlights to me 4 major principles for success. The first one is age. There is no age bar for dreams. Ruben Gonzalez proved that age is no bar for those who have a burning desire to accomplish great in life. Friends, Nelson Mandela was 76 when he became the President of South Africa. Colonel Sanders was 61 when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. And Leonardo da Vinci was 51 when he painted the Mona Lisa. Growing old is mandatory. Growing up is optional. I repeat, growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. One of the most common regrets a person has before he dies is that they wish that they had the courage to have a life true to themselves. As William Wallace once said in a movie, everybody dies, but not everybody lives. Point number 2 is self-belief. So the first one was age, the second is self-belief. You will only see it when you believe it. What your mind can conceive, you can achieve. The fact is, it is easy to conceive the dream, but to believe it, you need to follow a few of success principles. Now get this clear, that success leaves cues. And regardless of the field of endeavor and the period of achievement, we are lucky that we live in a time that somebody somewhere has somehow done something unbelievable before. So like Ruben, you need to associate with a champion, move around them, and read about them through their biographies. Secondly, don't let other people's opinion of you become a reality and steal your dream. Ruben Gonzalez was never chosen to play sports in his PT class or PE class, but he still became a champion. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." My third point is overcome fear. Luge as a sport was extremely dangerous and scary, with fear of dislocations, concussions, broken bones, and even death looming closely. Ruben was afraid, but believed that fortune always favors the brave. He said, if you want to win big, you have to be willing to lose big. To reach your potential, you need to run towards your fear. Otherwise, fear will run over you. Most people give up on their dreams because they fear failure. Despite crashing and falling several times, Ruben Gonzalez knew that with each passing race he was becoming more experienced than the previous run. He learned something from his mistakes and then applied the knowledge on the next run. Make failure your teacher, not your undertaker. The fourth is paying the price for success. Action has magic. Thinking is thinking, doing is doing. Successful people are always active. They get things done. They have urgency towards their goals. Losers always wait for ideal conditions to happen. Winners do it in spite of, not in the absence of a challenge. Now Ruben Gonzalez came to Houston in Texas, a place that was hot and humid. He lived there and that place was hot, yet he chose a winter sports even though he had never skied before. So I want you to remember 10 most important 2-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. I repeat, if it is to be, it is up to me. Ruben always said, despite the aches and pains of practice, he looked at the mirror and said, no matter how bad it is and how bad it can get, I am going to make it. Anyone can win the prize if you are ready to pay the price. Losers don't like working hard and winners also don't like, but they do it anyway because they live by a philosophy, pay now and play later. I repeat, pay now and play later. You will either pay the price of success or the price of regret. The choice is yours.